Join Gator great Shane Matthews every weekday as he brings you all you need to know about your Florida Gators, including news, analysis, and opinions with some of the biggest names in sports. Find us on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, or wherever you listen to your favorite podcast. Or watch us live at 8 a.m. on Facebook, YouTube, and Twitter.
Good morning. You're looking live at PodUp with Matthews in the morning from the Crime Prevention Security System Studios, large enough to serve you, small enough to care. I want to thank Mick Hubert. Hello, everybody. I'm Mick Hubert for welcoming everybody to the podcast today. And I'm trying to figure out my screen here. I don't know what the hell happened to my computer. I think somebody hacked into it last night, apparently. I don't know how to make it smaller. But anyway, we got a good show lined up today. Got a lot to talk about. We'll have JC coming to us live from the state of Illinois. And then we will have Seth Harp from WRUF ESPN Gainesville get his thoughts on some stuff going on in the world of sports as well. Good morning, JC. You're on the Titan Tomorrow hotline. What's up?
Yeah, good morning, everybody. Good to be here with you this morning on another Monday as we start the week. And up here in Chicago, I think or Naperville, Illinois specifically, the high temperature was 77 degrees yesterday. And right now outside, it's about 65. So it's very nice and pleasant. And we've got a charity event to play in today in golf. Yesterday, QB, I played one of the courses that you were familiar with up here at a place called Cog Hill, and it was all I wanted. They grow the rough. They grew the rough. You would have thought the USGA was setting it up yesterday. I had a ball that was so deep in the rough that when I hit it, I hurt my wrist. And I basically made a triple bogey on that hole because I could barely get it out of that grass that just sticks to your club. They did cut it, ate me alive. And I thought I hit a good drive, to be honest with you. But it was a great course, great fun, a lot of people up there. And
what did you shoot, JC?
Come back. What's that?
What did you shoot?
85.
Did you count them all?
Oh yeah, 85. It was.
I played twice. I played twice this weekend, and I shot 74, 77, and got clobbered.
I don't know what you're going to do about that game. We'll have to talk about that.
Well, the golf coach shot about 66. That didn't help.
You're not getting strokes off him?
Yeah, you do, but it's I am trying to figure out what in the hell is going on with my computer. Why can't I make half the screen? I'm gonna have to have somebody hack into it, I guess. All right, we got some text here. We got to get, or some Facebook Lives brought to you by Mellon Law. JC has on his Annandale golf shirt that has the correct logo on the chest, whereas the one that he got me has the logo on the sleeve that I have.
That's how they sold them. They sold them on the sleeve. This was a member guest shirt. I ordered this through the Peter Millar, but at the pro shop, the stuff is on the sleeves. Like I bought a shirt yesterday from Cog Hill. It said Cog Hill here, but it had the logo on the sleeve. QB, what do you want me to do?
Yeah. All right. Andy said here, let me get to it. He says, Shane, did you see the recent interview where Marco Wilson was asked about the shoe throwing incident? He said he would 100% do it again and throw it farther. He must have no common sense. I have not seen that. I don't know what interview it was, but I'm sure it must be on Twitter. I'll have to check it. I haven't been on Twitter in a while. I went to the best concert I've ever been to this weekend.
I appreciate the video you sent me with Riley Green. And
but you didn't even know who it was. You thought he was Morgan Wallen. So yes, it was Riley Green, Laney Wilson, and Luke Combs. And it was I got to give a shout out to my buddy Kevin Edmondson and his sister Michelle from Edmondson Electric out of Tampa for taking good care of us in a suite. And it was very nice. That's all I can say. And it was a tremendous concert.
I heard you singing, QB, at the Tampa Day Raymond James.
Well, I am a good singer, JC, when it comes to country music. It's a hidden talent that I have.
You wish you were a country music singer instead of a lousy old washed up quarterback, don't you?
I would trade that in a heartbeat. You wouldn't even think about it.
You might feel better too with that back of yours. Yeah.
Here's the great thing about being a singer. Especially a country singer, you can get up there, you can screw up the words, you can do whatever you want. Nobody's going to care, and nobody's going to criticize you and break down on Monday Well, Morgan Wallen and Luke Combs, they left out a couple of words, and so that's the great thing about it. So it was very good. I'm very upset that I can't get my computer screen.
You really are. My
working
God. Yeah.
Vince says that he thinks Marco is being funny about saying he would 1,000% throw it again. I don't know. I missed it. JC, haven't you seen the John Deere Classic? My guy finished the highest. One of your guys that you were blabbering about on Thursday ended up about like 45th place.
He was not 45th, but Seth
Ricky Rowinski was in like 45th. Okay,
26th. And
no, I looked at it this morning. I'm gonna tell you right now.
Is that Zach Johnson was lower than he was, but hey, listen, man, it's the John Deere Classic, and you ran it through me real fast. Listen, when you shoot 62 on the last day, I don't care what course you're going to be playing at.
Did you see he's Sepp Straka, who won it, Georgia Bulldog, by the way. Yeah. He should have easily shot 59. He had 5 holes left with the easiest par 5 on the golf course to shoot 59. He screwed it up, and then the damn guy hooked one in the water on 18. Yeah. But anyway, they now go play in the Scottish Open, and there's also the Barbasol over here for the guys that aren't qualified for that. We got a bunch of people here chiming in about Wyatt Langford going to the Texas Rangers. Well, yes, Kirsten Waldrop went to the Braves. I think that's a great pickup for them. It is. And then in the second round, Brandon Sproat went to the New York Metropolitans.
So I don't know why people thought, did Texas have the 3rd pick?
They had the 4th pick.
They had the 4th, and Detroit had the 3rd pick?
Correct. Detroit took a high school kid, and I saw some people I had people text to me last night wanting to know, how can they take a high school kid over what? Look, Bryce Harper was a high school. There's been thousands of high school kids that get drafted in the major league draft that go and have success. Wyatt Langford's going to have success, we think, as well. So it's just crazy how these people get so upset about that.
Well, I wouldn't get upset, but I think it's a great landing place for Wyatt. Texas is a wonderful place to play. It's an indoor stadium. He's going to hit the ball a mile. He's going to hit it a mile in that place. It's climate controlled. He'll kill it there. And the Rangers are an up-and-coming team, very impressive team this year so far. First place in their division before the All-Star break here that we're at now. And I think Wyatt landed at a great place. Nobody's surprised that Paul Skeens was taken by the Pirates first, and nobody's surprised that the other kid from LSU was taken by the Natties second. So, I mean, there was no drama here. This is the way it should have been, and this is the way it was. And I think he's going to do great at Pittsburgh. The question is he going to sign – are the Pirates going to sign him for $10 million? That's the question. Or are they going to try to lowball him around 7.5, 8, and is he going to hold out? So that
I thought in the baseball draft, I think it's slotted and there is no negotiations. Is that not right?
No, I was listening to Steve Russell's show, and he had a fella from the MLB Network, and he was saying that they will try to negotiate a contract, an opening contract.
So here's the deal. Wyatt Langford could come, if he doesn't like his deal from the Rangers, he can come back and play ball, I believe, for the Gators.
Probably so. But
he still has another year eligibility.
He's going to like his deal with the Rangers. I think that's an excellent place for him to start. I just think to get into the big leagues. I mean, he's going to hit the ball it's just going to go well for him there. I really believe that. Yeah.
JC, we have a breaking news here regarding recruiting here on Facebook Live, brought to you by Melling Law. If you're interested at all, we appreciate Reggie letting us know this, but Fletcher Westfall, an offensive lineman, he commits today at 11:45 a.m. Eastern Standard Time. Says UF leads over Clemson. 6'7", 335.
Woo! Wow. Well, we all know Billy likes big offensive linemen. Of course, they all do, but he's noted for that. They had it at Louisiana. And look at Osiris Torrance. He was one of the better linemen, the best lineman we had in Florida.
But Torrance ain't very big. Dan says, okay, of course Dan's going to correct us because we're morons when it comes to this. He says they can sign him for more money, but that takes money from the other picks. Money is all pooled for their draft picks in the Major League Baseball draft.
Okay. Thank you, Dan. Yeah. Well, I don't know. But I think this guy from LSU is going to command $10 million. I really do. And I don't know if Pirates are going to.
I don't know if he has. I wonder if he can go back. I don't know if Skeens has another year of eligibility or not.
Yeah.
But anyway, Gene says on Facebook Live, he says, I thought JC's golf game traveled.
Listen,
No,
Gene, you
if
go
there,
try
if
and
there's slope, rough, and fast
No,
greens,
I
JC has no chance.
had no problem with the slope. I didn't 3-putt one green on Cog Hills, Dubs Dread. But it's tight, man. And we played about 6,500, whatever it was.
Oh.
And the grass is this high. This high.
Well, hit it in the fairway.
Well, I did. But sometimes when you hit it in this grass, it's worth it. You'd rather hit it in the lake because you get hit it again out of there and hit it again out of there. Before you know it, you're throwing a club. I mean, it's hard. I shot 41 on the front and then exploded on the back, just explosion. And the only reason I shot 41 on the front is because an old guy took my ball going the other way. It's very crowded there, by the way. And he hit my ball, I think, because I ended up hitting his ball. I only discovered that when it was in the bunker, that it was the wrong Titleist.
You gotta mark your ball, JC. It drives me insane. You boys don't get out a Sharpie and mark your ball.
I know my ball has a logo on it, and this old dude hit my ball. And I only discovered that I actually hit his ball after I put that shot in the bunker. And it just ruined my whole next 3 holes. I went into
So Skeens is a 4-year junior like Langford, so he can go back to school.
But he's not. He's going to sign with Pittsburgh for $10 million. That's what's going to happen.
Text on the Titan MR text line from Darryl says, good morning, guys. I'm happy for Wyatt Langford. Speaking of baseball, my grandson's headed to Gator baseball camp this morning. Hydrate him. Make sure he hydrates. Shane, my son hung out with Luke Combs years ago in Jacksonville, became real popular. Yeah, he's a good dude. There's no question about that.
Was he the last guy to sing?
Yes. He and Morgan Wallen have broken every country music record there is, from George Strait to Garth Brooks. JC, it would calm you down if you would listen to that kind of music.
Calm me down. I liked Riley Green's logo about Alabama beating the hell out of Tennessee. I did like that.
He's from the state of Alabama. However, his granddad that he wrote the song about was an Alabama fan. Riley's an Auburn guy, even though he played quarterback at Jacksonville State. Josh on the Titan MR text line says, QB and JC, congratulations to the 3 Gator baseball players drafted in the top 60 last night. Thoughts on where each guy went. Good fits for the ball club.
Yes.
Yeah. I think Wyatt Langford, as you said, will probably be really good. And it's hard. It's so different than football because when you draft guys high in football, they're usually playing immediately right then. These guys usually have to work their way through the minors. But I do like Wyatt Langford. I think he's going to hit a ton of home runs. He is such a good hitter. And I think Hurston Waldrop is a perfect pitcher for the Atlanta Braves.
I do too. I do too. The Braves that was a great pick. Atlanta is so good with the pitching, and they just keep bringing more and more and more. You know, Max Fried has been on a 60-day disabled list, and he's still not active. And yet they just find somebody up. Just throw anybody out there. They've got total control of that division and of the National League right now.
Yeah. Let's get to this. Ruse Ogre State Farm Office is a team of dedicated insurance professionals ready to help life go right with the right insurance options for you and your family. Visitogreinsurance.com. Give them a call at 352-240-1779. Speaking of Major League Baseball, did you happen to see what Ellie De La Cruz did for the Cincinnati Reds, JC?
I did, and the reason why it got me excited is because I have this thing called FanDuel, and in the state of Illinois, unlike in Florida, you're free to do things like that, and it helped me. If you know what I mean. And maybe one day in Florida we'll get out of Stone Ages and be able to do something like that. And
you get and that whatever your FanDuel thing, so you get points or whatever for stolen bases.
No, you win money if you win the game, and you bet on it.
Okay, but do you know what he did?
Yeah, he stole 3 bases.
Yeah, on 2 pitches.
On 2 pitches, and the thing is that it shows you 2 things. It shows you that the Brewers are kind of a sleepy team right now, and the Reds are playing very alert baseball, even though the Reds lost 1-0 yesterday, unless you had the Reds plus 1.5 on the run line. But But no, the Brewers are and the Reds are the two best teams in that division. But Cincinnati is the story of that division right now. They're a surprise team. Baltimore's played well here recently, and I still expect the Padres to make some noise in the second half out west. But Arizona's the leader in that division, QB, and nobody had this going during the midseason break. Nobody had Arizona in first, nobody had Cincinnati in first, and nobody had Texas in first. Those three teams I just named, were tons of games under 500 last year, and here they are leading the division. I think that's the story so far of the first half of the year. It's clearly the teams that are leading in their divisions. Tampa Bay, Cleveland, I still call them the Indians, the Texas Rangers, and then you have the Reds, the Diamondbacks, who are tied with the Dodgers, and the Atlanta Braves, who are no surprise. But the Marlins, who were god-awful last year, are 53-39, 14 games above 500. The Miami Marlins, 8.5 behind Atlanta. So wild card play comes into this conversation in baseball. And the second half of the year, I think, is more interesting anyway, because then we start talked to the trade deadline, and then we get to the September. In September, things really heat up as they race for the playoffs.
We got a text on the Titan More text line from Phil in Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania. Thanks for listening. He says, it's the dog days of summer. I got a question for y'all. Who has the worst helmet in the National Football League? It's raining a lot up there. I think I'd have to think about it for a second. Cleveland's helmet doesn't bother me. I think the Tennessee Titans helmet's terrible.
Yeah, that's a good call there, QB. That logo doesn't do it for me either.
Yeah, I'd have to look at all of them, but the Titans is not one of my favorites. I actually don't like the Buccaneers helmet. I like their old helmet better.
You like the old?
They need to go back to the old. What was that dude's name?
Buccaneer or something with the knife.
Buccaneer Bob or Buccaneer Bruce, I think. Bucko Bruce.
Bucko Bruce. Okay. Yeah.
Dan says several teams are introducing new uniforms this season. Oh boy, that should be interesting. So all right. Well, JC, before we let you go, what time's your tea time today? 1
o'clock Central Time, 2 o'clock Eastern.
Oh, late start. Is this a scramble?
Mountain Time. It's a charity, but yeah, it's going to be fun though. And I just love being out here in the 70 some odd degree weather before I come back to the oven tomorrow. But listen, everybody, hang in there, stay cool, hydrate, enjoy the summer, man. And then QB, we'll do our. I guess in August we got to do our over-unders for win totals for every team in the SEC, and then we got to do our NFL divisional picks and wildcard teams.
Cliff says the Miami Dolphins logo looks more like a whale than a dolphin. I like their old logo better. All right, JC, real quick, we got a text on the Titan More text line. This is from Bob. He says, and I'm going to ask Seth Harp this because I know Seth follows this very closely. I don't know if JC has. Can you give me your thoughts on what's going on at Northwestern and Pat Fitzgerald?
I saw something about that where he was suspended, but maybe not. Seth will know this, but maybe not justifiably so. Something like that. And
so you haven't heard a whole lot of talk since you've been in Chicago about
it? Northwestern football doesn't get a lot of run here, bro. That's over in Evanston. I'm down here in Naperville, but the folks of Chicago.
So what are they talking about? The Fighting Illini?
I don't think college football is talked about at all. It's all Chicago Bears and whether or not Justin Fields can learn how to throw a forward pass. And if he does, they think they'll win some games. They do think up here in Chicago that they will finish ahead of the Packers this year because somebody's not playing for the Packers this year that always beat the Bears. So they do like their chances against the Packers. But the Detroit Lions are right now the odds-on pick, the favorite to pick in the NFC North, clearly. So we'll see how that ends up. But the hype is big in Detroit. It's big in Detroit. In Chicago, it's a little muted, but they really think they can finish ahead of the Packers. I talked to 2 bartenders and 2 other guys on the golf course about the Bears yesterday. So,
yeah, the Bears. A lot of people like the Bears. I don't. I just don't think Justin Fields.
He's got to learn how to throw the forward pass, QB, and the game has.
I've been telling you that for years.
I know, but the game has to slow down for him. His decision making. He tucks it and goes too often. He's not going to survive. He's going to be Michael Vick Part 2, and he's got the potential, but I just don't know if if he's the guy yet. They like him up here, but he can't win without learning how to throw the four pass.
All right, let's get to this day in sports. Brought to you by Campus USA Credit Union. Put some star power to work in your financial life at Campus USA Credit Union. JC, do you remember this? In 1934, the second All-Star baseball game, the AL beat the NL 9-7 at the Polo Grounds. Do you remember that?
I do know where the Polo Grounds were. Thank you very much, but no, I'm afraid I missed that game.
Oh, this right here is great. First of all, we got two questions. Tim wants to know, who is JC betting on for the home run derby?
Okay, that's gotta be Peter. I'm going with Peter Alonso.
And then Joseph says JC with the insider info from the bartender.
Well, you asked what are they thinking up here? I can tell you they're not talking about the Northwestern Wildcats, even though
Are they talking about Notre Dame at all?
I haven't heard much about Notre Dame either, but I got this sweet Titleist Alabama hat for 50% off at Cog Hill yesterday. So obviously nobody here cares about Alabama.
How do you know does it have an A on it? Does it have an A on that hat?
There it is, right there.
Let me see it. I can't see it.
Huey, your eyes are terrible.
Oh, there it is. Now it is. Well, you weren't turned to the side.
Oh, there, see?
So they sold Alabama hats at Cog Hill.
This hat was on the discount table for 50% off.
Nobody gives a damn about Alabama up there.
It what?
Nobody gives a damn about Alabama up there.
That's because they're all Notre Dame fans and they can't beat Alabama. But hey, I bought it 50% off. It was a red dot special at Dub's Dread, course number 4.
$17.95. What'd you pay for it?
Something like that. $14, $16, whatever. Yeah. Yeah, I mean, look, you get deals. They had putter covers, Notre Dame, Illinois, the Bears. So
you must have you got bad connection there at the Embassy Suites in Naperville.
Why am I not coming in? Am I out?
You're coming in and out, in and out, in and out.
Oh,
so all right, so real quick before we let you go, JC, have you just stayed in the suburbs? You have not gone downtown?
No,
Chicago
I haven't gone downtown, and that's fine with me. That'll be the next trip. I just like to see it out here on the southwest side of town. And today we're going down to where we White Eagle. I don't know where that is, but that's today's tournament. Listen, it's
JC, have you gone to one of those? They have those casinos there in like Joliet, and
yeah, they do.
I want to say they have one in Naperville.
No, haven't done that. But the FanDuel thing is a lot of fun. A lot of fun to play with. It's awesome. I hope the state of Florida figures it out with the Seminoles and whoever. It's the year 2023 for God's sakes. But at any rate, got Wimbledon to watch here with my man. We're going to watch our guy. Help me, Joe. Who? Oh, Christopher Eubanks, our guy. Christopher Eubanks, guy going to play Tsitsipas, Stefanos, and he's from Greece. So our guy Christopher Eubanks is our play today, plus 245. That means if you bet $10, you win $24.50 if the guy wins.
Okay, so, last thing before we get you out here, a text on the Titan Mark text line from Jim. He says, JC, what is the name of the scramble you're playing in today?
Miracle Michael. The Miracle Mile.
Michael.
Oh, the Miracle Michael. It's something about Ronald McDonald's proprietor's son. It's much like the Tyler's Hope issue that we have. Okay. Tyler's Hope tournament that we have down in Gainesville. This is the Miracle Michael, similar situation here for a man who.
So what's the over-under on how many Big Macs JC eats today?
I'm a quarter pounder guy with no sesame seeds, a regular bun, no sesame seeds, quarter pounder, extra sauce. And I love the McDonald's French fries. I'm a McDonald's. Look, when I road trip it, it's always McDonald's, always fish fillet sandwich. Oh, it's always McDonald's. She wants to go to Arby's and all these other damn places. Chick-fil-A is a pain in the ass because it takes 2 hours to get through there because everybody's there. I go straight to the Arches, baby, the Golden Arches. That's America. So that's
okay. One last question. They want to know, and you'll probably know the answer to this, JC. It is from Tim. He says, this brought to you by Mello. Are the Seminoles keeping us from FanDuel?
There's some argument that they are. They want exclusivity on that ability to do what the rest of the world can do, and other companies want to compete, and so that's the issue. But the Seminoles can negotiate; they can get something done. There's something with the laws in Florida that's kind of antiquated with how the voters have to approve. Blah 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 blah. I hate getting into the weeds about this, but the Seminoles want the whole monopoly on it, and they want the others who are fighting them want to have the ability to create competition, and so, other companies like FanDuel and DraftKings and so forth can come up, and Barstool can get involved. Florida is a massive market. It's the third largest state, maybe the second largest state in the country, behind California and Texas. In fact, it is. So I think it's just this. I just think it's too big of a market to be ignoring this revenue creator that they allow in other states like Illinois. That's practically bankrupt. So you got to have the ability to offer this type of entertainment in a state of that size. It's only getting bigger. We've surpassed the state of New York in population. It's obvious why. So it's going to happen, but the Seminoles are something that's going to be in. You got to deal with them. But either way, with them or without them, let's get something done.
All right, JC, y'all have fun today. Don't eat too much, and we'll talk to you on Wednesday.
All right, see you then. Say, guys.
That's JC joining us from Illinois on the Titan MR hotline. Take a quick timeout, come back. We're going to talk with Seth Harp about the draft, what's going on at Northwestern, and also the Bob Huggins deal going on with the West Virginia Mountaineers. You're watching and listening to PodUp with Matthews in the Morning from the Crime Prevention Security System Studios. We'll be right back.
We want to take this moment to thank our sponsors who keep the show going and pay the bills. Our premium sponsors are Crime Prevention Security Systems, large enough to serve you, small enough to care. Titan MRI, Gainesville's only locally owned and operated MRI facility. Meldon Law, the only official injury and accident law attorneys of the Florida Gators. Peaceland Dental, Gator Nation's first choice for dentistry in Port Charlotte.
Campus USA Credit Union.
QC Kinetics, live pain-free with QC Kinetics. Dave & Buster's, eat, drink, play, and watch. Our gridiron sponsors are Auto ER, UF Bookstores, Celebration Point Town Center, Silverback Concrete Co., Ruse Ogre State Farm Insurance, Doreen Wibby, Realtor Caldwell Banker, MM Parish. Our touchdown sponsors are Adams Ribs, Gator Dominoes, Celebrate Primary Care, Gator Bait Media, Okido America, Style Cuts, Ironwood Golf Course, Big Mills Cheesesteak, McDonald's of Gainesville, 84 Lumber, Aver and Smith, Dowling Signs, Baker's Sporting Goods, Silver Q Billiards and Sports Bar. If you're interested in promoting your business on the show, call Freddie at 352-284-3733. If you like what we're doing here, make sure to follow us and support the businesses that support us.
Hi, Steve Spurrier here. Making a reservation at my restaurant is easier than a Saturday afternoon homecoming game against Vandy. You don't have to call or email. Just go to spurriers.com, hit the reservation button, pick a date, a number of guests, and a time. It's so simple, I can do it. In fact, I just did. Maybe I'll see you tonight.
Welcome back to the Crime Prevention Security System Studios, large enough to serve you, small enough to care. Celebration Point, that's where the Gators go to celebrate. With premium brands like Visor's Rooftop, Bass Pro Shops, Dave & Buster's, Fat Tuesdays, Starbucks, and the HBC's restaurant, Spurrier's Gridiron Grill, the hottest restaurant in Florida in the heart of Gator Nation. That's Spurrier's Gridiron Grill. Now we're going to go to the Titan MR hotline. We're going to be joined by Seth Harp from WRUF ESPN Gainesville. Good morning, Seth. How are you, my man?
Good morning, Shane. Good to talk to you, man. It's been too long.
Yes, indeed. I want to first talk to you about the Major League Baseball draft that happened last night. If you were in charge, if you were the Pittsburgh Pirates, I mean, obviously Skeens is who he is. Would you have taken the pitcher, or would you have gone Dylan Cruz, Wyatt Langford, or someone else?
Boy, to me, Shane, as a guy that played baseball, and I'm actually from Indiana and just got back from Indiana after 10 days. So this debate between Wyatt Langford and the high school kid from Indiana is fascinating. But to me, Paul Skeens reminds me of a harder throwing Justin Verlander is who he reminds me of. And Shane, I see, and it sounds crazy, but I see 25, 30 home run outfielders all the time that can steal 15 bases. It's hard to believe. But I see those guys, not that they grow on trees, but there's 6 or 7 of those guys in the league. There's not too many Bulldogs, 6'5". What did he throw? What did he hit? 100 on the gun 40 times in that Wake Forest game. To me, he is special. He's unique. He's one of a kind. He's almost like, I'm trying to draw parallels to other guys. Isn't he more like a Trevor Lawrence? He's more of an Andrew Luck, one of these guys. Oh my God, they come along once in every generation. So, pitching aside, and the position player can give you 130, 140 games a year, where a starting pitcher is only going to give you 35. But when I got a guy that can pop 100 miles an hour on the ray gun, not the jugs gun, 40 times and dominate college athletes, he's better. He's better than Steven Strasburg was at the college level, at that stage, on that level. I know that, boy, with Wyatt and the other guy from LSU, I know that there was that love for those guys and the propensity to where they hit 700 in the College World Series finals, whatever those guys were doing. But to me, he's generational. He's one of a kind. He's Tim Duncan. He's that elite type of guy. So I'd have taken Paul Skeens. I really would have, and I think the Pirates did the right thing.
Yeah, and it's going to be interesting because we got a lot of people out in Texas that watch this podcast. Dan's one of them. Left field, where Wyatt Langford's projected to play, and obviously played mostly here for the Gators, they've kind of struggled, and they're a good baseball team. It'll be interesting to see how quickly he can move up in the rankings there. Because, I tell everybody, and I just mentioned it to JC, this Major League Baseball draft is so much different than the NFL draft, because if you draft a guy in the NFL, that dude needs to play right away.
Yeah.
These guys sometimes don't even make it to the majors. So we'll see. But I think Wyatt Langford will be a pretty good pro. Boy, he's a powerful hitter, and he could hit a lot of home runs there at that ballpark in Arlington for sure. Real quick, Dan says Skeens struck out everybody when record home runs were being set. That's a great point. I think they brought that up on the broadcast last night. His whiff rate, or whatever they call it, was phenomenal in this era where they hit the most home runs in college baseball. Northwestern. Okay, you're kind of a Big Ten guy, kind of.
We're up there, yeah.
What all is going on? I've read some reports where players are now coming back. I don't really know what's going on. Pat Fitzgerald, former player, if people aren't aware, has done a really good job at Northwestern. Now they've had some down years as well. What's going to happen up there in Evanston, Illinois?
Private school, right? Academia through the roof. Well, let's face it, it's the Vanderbilt of that conference, right? And except more success, at least on the gridiron. Pat Fitzgerald's the most accomplished Northwestern football player ever, and he's had opportunities to leave there. He is through and through Northwestern as they come. So, Shane, you have a situation where there was hazing. It was of sexual nature. They haven't really gotten into the details of what exactly was going on there, but it sounds like it was pretty brutal. So now the question is, did he know? And I was reading the report on this morning. The young man that is providing the information of what happened is doing so anonymously and is saying he either knew and didn't care, but regardless, if he didn't know, that's what failure, institutional control, and he should be kicked out anyway. So this is what your dilemma is. And Shane, you played at the highest levels your whole career. It's tough for one guy to monitor 80 plus people. But coaches know, for the most part, they have a good idea of things that are going on. Not all of them, but a lot of them know what's going on. And then you get to a situation where you have a situation like where you have Penn State and Joe Paterno is 80 years old almost. So maybe he doesn't know what's going on because of where he is age-wise. Pat Fitzgerald's still in his 50s, right? So you go back 10 years ago, Pat Fitzgerald was in his 40s, early 40s. Is it possible, you have to ask yourself this, for a coach in his early 40s not to know what's going on or have some sort of clue what's going on? Football, it's a little bit harder to monitor 80 guys. Shane, I really believe like in college basketball when Rick Pitino in Louisville had that prostitution or that house where they're bringing in strippers for the players. It's a little bit easier to monitor 10 guys on a basketball team, right? Football, 80 guys, it's a little bit tougher. So this is going to come down to the embarrassment for Northwestern in their academic profile if they feel that they can weather this storm and the nature of what comes out, how harsh it is. If I had to guess, I guess he's gone. just because of what it means recruiting wise and what can be leveraged against you. Who's recruiting against Northwestern in that area of the country? Notre Dame's recruiting against Northwestern. Academic wise is where I'm going here. Michigan, you're not competing, like Ohio State's not recruiting the same players as Northwestern. So you look at that pocket of the country and who's coming after those guys. I just think academic wise, if you were a regular public university, be fine. But where that's situation is, and I puff my chest out here where they pride themselves on academia and where they pride themselves on doing it the right way. Any of this information comes out at all, if he has any knowledge of, sayonara, he's got to go. And that's unfortunate because he's had a hell of a career there.
He has, and it's so late. I mean, you don't want anything like this to ever happen, but this close to training camp starting, I mean, obviously they would probably have to go higher within, wouldn't you think? They'd have to just elevate somebody on the staff.
At this stage, you the question is, you got to make sure the assistant, and maybe he wasn't there when this took place either, right? And you know how assistants and coordinators circle out in college football. Chances are that he wouldn't be. So at this stage of the game, what, Shane, they open 3 weeks. Practice starts in 3 weeks. So yeah, and the timing of this is one of those ugly situations too. It's not exactly the same as what happened at Baylor. But remember, about 7-8 years ago, you had a situation with Art Briles at Baylor where it happened over the summer and they had to make a decision, and you basically sacrifice that year until you figure out what else is going on. So, you know, they suspended him for a couple of games, but once you start suspending coaches for a couple of games, it starts to stockpile, right? And as more information comes out on it, it's either, again, and I'll circle back to this, either he didn't know about what was going on with his football team, which you ask yourself, is that a lack of institutional control, or he did know and didn't care? So either way, I just don't, you know, this as well as I keep saying this, in the recruiting world, I keep going back to recruiting because it's going to be used against you. You're going to walk into a player's parents' house, Shane, I mean, you're a parent. Imagine if a coach sits down and says, you know, the players that were there 7 or 8 years ago, they made them walk around naked, doing an elephant walk, holding each other's genitals. You want your son to be a part of that? That's stuff's used in recruiting. So game over if you can start to use those things. And I just don't see how he survives it. I really, really don't.
Yeah. Tim's question here, he says Florida's 5th academically. That's for public institutions. He wants to know where Northwestern's ranked. They have their own separate deal for the private institutions, right?
Yeah. And remember, the Big Ten's funky with this. There's a certain, I can't remember exactly what the term is, but the Big Ten only wants universities to come into their conference that rank in the top 30 or top 40 of this academic profile. That was part of the reason they went for USC and UCLA, and they're just not adding random universities in there based on population size. They think they're just a step below the Ivy League, which they're not, but they think they're just a step below the Ivy League. So they hold themselves to a higher standard. Northwestern is it is the second best journalism program in the country behind Syracuse. I know our valedictorian at our school didn't get into Northwestern when I was in high school. Got into Notre Dame, but didn't get into Northwestern. That tells you how tough it is academically to go there. It's tough place to be.
Silverback Concrete is a family-led team of heavy concrete specialists that build commercial structures with unrivaled quality. Silverback Concrete, you stand on it, we stand by it. Speaking with Seth Harp on the Titan MR Hotline. All right, the other kind of controversial and crazy story out there right now nationally is West Virginia.
I saw this.
And we have Bob Huggins, who obviously was arrested for drunk driving or what have you, supposedly resigned, but he now says he has not resigned and he's going to sue the school. Well, this could get ugly.
Yeah. And what did I see? That the text came from his wife's phone, not his phone, that said he was resigning. It's like, oh man, what a mess. So he's had multiple incidents, right? He had the gay slur that took place. Then what, a DUI, Shane? Was it the DUI that then got him suspended? That then the school said, all right, that's enough. The last year and a half, 2 years here, it's been too much. Resignations come in, and then he says he didn't do it. I didn't really resign. So this is why, when you sign that Apple agreement where you have like 16 pages, you just click yes at the end. That's why any contract you have that anybody has ever signed anywhere for anything is 8 to 10 pages long because it's all about the fine print. So now the question is his signature on any documentation that asks for his resignation? Is there any video? Is there any record of exactly what he agreed to in his resignation? Were there attorneys present? Was the university's attorney present? It's going to get into the weeds of this. And the minute you have documentation or a signed affidavit or anything like that, then it's game over for Bob Huggins. Is it a ploy just to grab a couple of extra bucks on the way out, to give him 500,000, an extra million just for him to walk away? Probably. But this was a guy that, again, we talk about decorated. Bob Huggins was Mr. West Virginia. Bob Huggins is one of the, what is he, the fourth winningest coach in the history of college basketball? There was a shot, now albeit a long one, if he'd hung around for 5 or 6 more years, that he could have tracked down Mike Krzyzewski in terms of all-time wins. I mean, he'd had a heck of a run. He'd have to average 25 wins a year, something like that. But you're talking about one of the, he's a Hall of Famer. And now for it to end like this, it's just an ugly situation. And in college basketball, this seems to happen more than anywhere else, doesn't it? Where these guys, whether it's Bobby Knight, they just hang on way too long. Jim Boeheim, the way that ended at Syracuse with a couple of dud seasons, and on his way out, he basically gives the finger to everybody. And now Bob Huggins, he's never going to coach again there. So it's got to be about money at this point. It just, again, you're talking about one of the winningest coaches in the history of the sport that finds himself in a situation now where it looks petty more so than anything else. But if he doesn't care and wants, I mean, Shane, what's your legacy worth at this point? He's made what, $30 million, $20 million in his career coaching. Is his legacy more important than an extra $1 million or two? Probably doesn't care. And at that age, I'd probably want the extra $1 million or two than my legacy anyway. So at that point, those are the things you have to ask yourself. And this is going to get ugly. But the minute they have, if there's no signed documentation on it and it's just a text, he'll win that. His lawyer will win that. Or I don't win it, but he'll get more money. He'll get cash out of the deal, or at least he'll settle. And West Virginia will pay to make this go away. This is not about coming back and coaching. This is about making more money.
Yeah. We got a text here on the Titanamar text line from Jonathan. He says, Seth, I'd like your thoughts on the renovation of the swamp.
Oh, I love this stuff. Infrastructure and buildings, it's an arms race. It is. And Shane, collegiately, it's so much different than the NFL. I always get a kick out of teams, and people said, if I were the city of Jacksonville, I wouldn't pay for stadium renovations. Then they're going to leave. You look at any team, and thank God the Gators don't have to worry about this, or Gator fans in Gainesville don't have to worry about this. You play chicken with the NFL. Just a couple quick examples. So the state, where I'm going with this is the stadium does need to be renovated in a big way. That $400 million, it's probably going to get a little bit higher than that when it's all said and done. Who played chicken with the NFL? St. Louis, San Diego, Oakland. How'd that work out? You're going to lose. Should the billionaire owners pay their own things? Yes. But they're not going to do that. They're going to require you to do it. So be thankful that you don't have to pay for it as a city or a state first and foremost. What did Scott Strickland talk about, Shane? $400 million for renovations. And there's certain things, wider concourses. I don't care about wider concourses. To me, it's all about the inside of the stadium. At least what I have heard is they want to do something similar on the student side that's on the home side with not the press box, but like luxury amenities that creates an echo chamber between the two. It won't look exactly like it, but it'll be like a bookshelf where both of those big structures exist. I don't know how you build that on that other end. What are some of the, Wi-Fi capabilities and access to more things? That's all great. But I think when it's all said and done, it's not an option of what should they do. It's that you have to do it, whatever it is. And you have to go big and go bold. It's funny that we're talking about Northwestern today, because Northwestern, so much money's coming in with the Big Ten contract. They're building a new $800 million stadium. They're just saying, whatever, let's build a new one. So that becomes a question too, right? Is it easier just to build a new stadium and tear it down and start from scratch, or move somewhere else? Of course, there was talk on the golf course, building something over there. But to me, when this is all said and done, if you're going to get me to fork over, $100 to come to a football game now, it can't be just about football. It's got to be about other things. And that's why when the SEC decided to go from 9 or stay at 8 games, it's like, Shane, I mean, I love football. You love football, but the common fan is not going to fork over $80 to watch you, rickroll McNeese State. They're not without having some sort of enjoyable. And what do we do at games when the Gators get up 20 points? Shane, you look up at the scoreboard and go, oh man, look what Mississippi State's doing to LSU. Oh, look what's going on up there. And you go to NFL stadiums, there are NFL games on other scoreboards in the corner, right? On the Videotron, so you can watch other things. It has to be an almost in-home type of experience. So whatever they have to do, you have to do it so I can enjoy other things while at the stadium other than football. And you can say that's wrong or that's not what it should be about. That's fine. But why would I fork over $100 when I can sit at home and watch 8 games in a day? If I'm going to come, it's got to be worth my while. So I like the idea. And I know it's going to take away student seats. I hate to tell you this, but as an athletic department, I'd much rather have 30 luxury boxes where I can fork over and milk some people out of a couple $100,000 a year than have a student be able to walk in halfway through the first quarter and leave halfway through the third.
Yeah. So you're hearing that they're going to try to build luxury suites on the east side, because I've always wanted something over there, but I thought with Florida Gym being a building that you cannot touch Florida Gym, that they had issues being able to construct stuff on, because it's so cramped between Florida Gym and the stadium. So do you think they still can build something over there?
I don't know. Again, I've heard 3 different things. I've heard that they want to do things on the ends, the end zone side, which makes more sense, right? To box that in a little bit. But removing student seating over there and creating some sort of luxury thing is one of the things on the table. All the bidding and how this is going to come out, you are a little bit landlocked there. You're not landlocked on the, what do you want to say, the university drive side of things. You're not landlocked. You can come out there quite a bit. But you are landlocked on the other side of the stadium because you're going to spill over into the road and then into my building, Shane, if you keep coming that way, the College of Journalism. But from what I've heard, that they want to increase the luxury. I don't know if luxury is wrong. They want to increase boxes and the ability for a grandiose more experience. And that would include more luxury seats and more luxury suites. And they tore down Yankee Stadium to add more luxury suites. That's what this is about now. It's about getting $8,000 a game for those things, $10,000 a game for those things, because you can make more money on that. And if I'm going to fork over a couple $100 a game, it better be in air conditioning. And that's the other thing, Shane. Are they going to put any type of shade on that stadium too? Because let's face it, you bake in there on game days, especially if you're on the other side of the stadium. So what does that look like? It's going to be fascinating. Everybody's got their own opinion on what it is. I think that $400 million ends up being more like $500-600 million before it's all said and done.
Yeah, I think so. It'd be interesting. Yeah, you bring up shade, they could possibly put, like, I think it's Washington, the University of Washington has these like overhangs.
Yeah.
They could possibly do something like that. So it'll be interesting to see. Okay, I wanted to get your thoughts before we let you go, Seth. The All-Star break is here. The 2 best teams in baseball are the Rays, which ESPN Gainesville, WRUF, is the home of the Tampa Bay Rays in this area. And then the Atlanta Braves. Who do you see playing in the World Series when it's all said and done?
I always go with pitching. At least at this level. To me, if I had to pick between those teams, I'd say the Braves. If I just because I know the Rays are good, but the Braves just have a better pitching staff from top to bottom. And the way that they've done it, Shane, I look how they built that organization, what they've done. And the Rays did this a little bit with Wander Franco when they had a young guy. And they said, let's give him a 10-year deal, 12-year deal, and let's give him more money up front, but we can keep him around a little bit longer. The Braves did that with 7 guys. They took shots on 7 guys that were 3 years, 4 years away from arbitration, and that's how they built this thing. So I look at what they've done rotation-wise. I look at what they've done position-wise. They knew that they couldn't compete on the big scale. And something else that they did, Shane, they didn't re-sign Freddie Freeman. They let Freddie Freeman walk so they could afford 3 of these guys. And it's worked out. Sometimes you have to let that guy go. Rather than pay a guy in his 30s a 10-year deal, $300 million. It didn't get quite up to that point. But sometimes you have to look around and go, you know what? We got to let that guy go so we can afford these 3 guys and build for the future. And the Braves were very systematic about it, and it's worked out well. The Rays, you talk about a great organization in terms of letting guys go when they need to let them go, rebuilding, trading guys when they need to trade them. It's going to be heartbreaking for the Rays here in about a year and a half because they're going to have to make a decision on Randy Arozarena because he's about ready to hit that arbitration scale where he's going to be making 25, 30, $40 million a year, and they're not going to be able to afford that. So he's going to be traded the next year and a half. To me, where they are pitching wise, the Rays just continue to find these guys, and they draft so well. It's just a shame where ownership and the stadium issue that they have in Tampa but Shane, I also wonder if they get a new stadium, will it be like this anymore? If they have a new stadium and now there's more revenue, do they sign more guys to long-term deals, not allowing them to trade these guys to constantly replenish the farm system? It's not exactly like this, but the Rays remind me so much of Bill Belichick and the Patriots, where he looks around and is like, well, you probably got about another year and a half of usefulness in you. Goodbye. See ya. Let's bring in somebody. That's what they do there. They're like, okay, we're going to let you go where you still have 2 good years left on your deal, or still 2 years left in you, because there's no loyalty here to us and you. We can't afford loyalty here. God, those 2 teams are good. I also, the Dodgers are always going to be around as they start to get some of their guys healthy. And as long as you have Kershaw and the rest of that rotation, they're going to be fine there. Teams like the Rangers, teams that are new to this, kind of worry me a little bit. Because the postseason is such a different beast. And now the All-Star break is here. One thing I do love about baseball is that the All-Star game is the closest to a real game of any All-Star game. Let's face it, what's hockey end up like 19-12? Not that we consume a ton of hockey here anyway. The Pro Bowl, they got rid of it because it was so bad. And basketball's 188-178. And then they decide the last 2 minutes, time to play defense. Baseball's All-Star game actually resembles a postseason game more than any other sport, because what happens in the postseason? You get in trouble in the 3rd inning. Here comes the bullpen. Inning. Baseball's All-Star game. You get the starter for 2 innings, and then inning. It becomes a bullpen game. So I love that about baseball's All-Star game, and got a lot of young talent. Shane, baseball seems exciting again. Not that it wasn't exciting, but you've got teams that are successful, smaller market teams that are successful. The Reds have maybe the daily, this Cruz guy. Oh my gosh, we steal 4 bases. The other, you see guys that you don't normally see, exciting guys. It's a sport with the pitch clock now. Baseball's going in the right direction, and I'm one of these guys that looks at it and says that's a good thing, right? It's a good thing to get young, interesting people involved with the sport again. I don't know what it means long term, but it's a good first half. It's the best first half baseball to me has had, and probably since the home run chase, Shane. Probably in 25 years, it's the best first half baseball's had in a quarter century, and that's saying something.
Yeah, it's been fun for sure. I got this one question here, and I don't know if you know the answer to this. Maybe you do, maybe you don't. Joseph asked on Facebook Live, brought to you by Metal Law. Back to the stadium. How does the bid process go? Do the companies make blind proposals on what they think would be best, or will they all be the same layout, just a different pricing thing?
That's a good question. That's a question I'll tell you that collegiately, I don't know. I can tell you how it works in cities, where the NFL teams do it. Because let's face it, universities can keep this stuff close, like cars, and keep them close to the vest, right? They don't have to tell you anything. Cities are using public funding, so it becomes public. I know that they do this, that the athletic department tells them what they want. I know this is what happened at Notre Dame when Notre Dame redid theirs. The athletic department says, this is what we want. We want offices here. We want this structure here. We'd like this. Go get it. Show us what you got. So Scott Strickland in the athletic department will give them 3 or 4 things. And he said, and I quote, we're not looking for a Band-Aid here. This is a big renovation project that we're talking about here. So it's not going to be like, we're going to do the scoreboards, and the swamp is going to look different, gang. It's going to look a lot different with this plan. So, and look how different Alabama looks from when you were playing, Shane, to what it looks like now. Yeah. Look how different. Look at A&M. Look at A&M pre-Johnny Manziel to now. All these stadiums have pumped in $70, $80 million year by year. So Florida really hasn't done that. Now you're talking about a $500 million renovation. Well, Texas A&M's was what, $800 million when it was all said and done. So I know that the athletic department has some things that they want. They inform the contractors these things, and then it's up to them to come up with the best design. But just like NASA, right? It's the lowest bidder who comes in at the lowest bid for the most amount that you're going to get. So caveat emptor, buyer beware when it comes to some of that stuff, I guess.
Yeah. Seth, appreciate your time, my man. Let everybody know how they can follow you on Twitter.
Yeah, sure. It's at Harp on Sports. Again, I'm operations coordinator, ESPN Gainesville. My podcast, The Bar at harponsports.com. I haven't done it for 2 weeks because I've been out of town. I've been back in Indiana visiting my parents and my nieces and nephews and sisters and all that. So the podcast will be rolling back up again. I get it started this week after a couple weeks. But again, it's harponsports.com and everything else, social media-wise, at Harp on Sports.
Good stuff, man. We'll talk to you soon, Seth. Take care,
Thanks,
buddy.
Shane. I appreciate coming on as always. Take care, bud.
Yep, that's Seth Harp. Join us on the Titan More Hotline. Tomorrow's program, we'll have Buddy Mark from the Buddy Mark Show. We're also scheduled to have Rich Tootin, the old strength coach for the Gators for a long time. We've been in the NFL, hoping to have him on. Fingers crossed there. If not, we're definitely going to get him on sometime this summer, but it's supposed to be scheduled tomorrow after Buddy. Have a great day, folks. We'll see you tomorrow. Take care.